America voted for Trump. That's what you're telling us. Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay. No, I just wanted. Okay, I get to tell you guys a story fresh off the press. Yesterday, I was lamenting the fact that our kids went to the airplane and weren't allowed on the airplane because their 1-year-old daughter didn't have a visa to connect through America. So, and it turns out, maybe I said this they received the visa online. I mean, they did this, ETAS, something you can do very quickly. They got it online on the way home from the airport. They got it an hour late, basically. Okay, fine. Last night, and the night before last, my son and I spent some time looking for flights. I actually found a flight, but the travel agent, for whatever reason, didn't, I don't know, whatever. That's a different story. Bottom line, they didn't have a flight. Yesterday, I spent quite a bit of time, and he spent all day looking for flights. Could not find, there is nothing. I mean, when you look on El Al and you want to go, you say El Al, Tel Aviv to Paris. It'll show you the whole month of November, no flights. Wow. It's just, there's nothing. So they just can't figure, you could, what do you find a flight to Bucharest? There's a flight today to Bucharest. Amazing. Okay, let's get from Bucharest to Vancouver. Crazy stuff. Okay. At 3 p.m, he was very frustrated, and he realized he was probably spending Shabbos here, and he really wanted to get there before Shabbos. So he sat down and he wrote the Rebbe a letter and said, this is what happened, and we need a nice galui so that we can start our shlichus, and please help us out. Closes, I don't know what he did with the letter. He put it in English, put it in Mayim. I don't know what he did with the letter. And he went back to his computer. He went on El Al, the flight that they were on yesterday, Tel Aviv, LA, which had no seats. 2 people canceled. There were 2 seats on the flight. This is 2 minutes later. 2 seats on the flight, and they flew out on that flight last night.
Wow. You were able to sleep last
That was pretty fast. Fast. Now those 2 people, I always wonder about those 2 people, like what happened to them. All of a sudden they had to, hopefully they had to stay for good things. Not, whatever. Okay. So, sure. Okay, so yesterday we learned about Torah, and we learned why Shlomo Melech's, Izzy, I'm sorry, you're just the closest. Could you please close that window, because I'm sure they're very nice people, but they're noisy, our neighbors. Thank you. It really does make a huge difference. They're good windows. That the reason Shlomo Melech had to tell us that Mayim Rabim lo yuchlu lechavos esahava v'naros lo yushtafu is because I would have a very reasonable havamina to say that the Mayim Rabim could indeed overcome the love of the nefesh for the Eibishter. Why? Because the source of the Mayim Rabim is Toyu, and the source of the nefesh is Tikkun. And Tikkun is a higher level of reality than Toyu is a higher level of reality than Tikkun, and so maybe it's more powerful. But along comes Shlomo Melech and says it's not. So then I have to understand why not. So the Rabbi answered that also, right? And we answered the question that we asked about that answer. The Rabbi says that even though it's true that the source of the neshama in a revealed way is Atzilus, meaning were one to look at the neshama, so to speak, what would they see? They'd see a spitting image of Atzilus, so to speak. Okay, that being said, the true source of the neshama is Atzmus, and that's a level obviously far beyond Toyu. Right? Okay. And we had a question, wait a minute, I understand, was this all a fake? No, it wasn't a fake, because in all fairness, the notion of describing Atzmus Tikkun as the source of the neshama is definitely absolutely reasonable. That's what we say in davening. Neshama shares nesad to be tahari, etc. Okay? Even though Chassidus explains that there is a level beyond tahari in that bracha itself, and that's the level of neshama nesad to be, which is beyond tahari. Okay. Say that. So now the Rebbe is going to just explain that in the context of three different levels of neshama. And three different levels of fire, interestingly enough. Okay, so let's start, we saw it, but let's start from 4 lines up from the bottom of page Ayin Dalid Rish. Vatam lazeh, the reason is that it can't douse the love, is what? As was said before, this Rishafer Rish Ve'eh shall have his call. Right? That it's, that the neshama is a burning fire, a flame of Yud-Kei. Shesharash neshama va'ava misater shabbat, that the source of the soul and the love, the hidden love that is in that soul, hu ba'atzmas harein sof shalamai legam mibechinas toyeh. Shesharash, that we say yesterday, shesharash ha'ava shebenevesh elokis hu bebechinas shalheves Yud-Kei. It's like the flame of Yud-Kei. K'mei shehi keshura ugenuza, as it is bound and concealed begacheles, in the coal, rishafer eish, ulamai, we'll come back to all this, ulamai leyoser, and even higher, k'meishu bebechinas tsur. The tsur is a flint, a flint, a stone, a flint, which is the stone that you have in every lighter, that when the piece of metal scratches against the lighter, it makes a spark which lights either the butane fuel or now it's the gas that comes out of the thing. Shalamayla mihavaya sheshamhu shadash neshama. That's the source of the neshama. Okay, so now the Rabbi I've just mentioned 3 different levels of fire. Shalhevis, that's a flame. Coal, that's gechelis. And then sur, that sur isn't exactly a level of fire, but interesting enough, it's the source of fire. Okay. Shalhevis is revealed fire. So for you and I, it's a very, very powerful expression of fire. On the other hand, it's the most easily doused. Very simple to put out a flame. A little bit of water and there's no more flame. So that's obviously a level of the neshama that could, if that were the totality of the neshama's connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, then a little bit of Mayim Rabim might douse it rather easily. Right? If that was the mushal for the neshama, the shalhevis. Because a little bit of water douses there are no more flames when you're putting out a campfire. So first pail of water, there's no flames. Okay, then what? But what are there? There's coals. And those coals are still burning very, 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 very hot. As a matter of fact, people have to learn how to put out a campfire because they'll think it might be out, but that's not true. Until you basically drown the coals in the fire in water, they're not going to go out. Right? So it's going to be another few pails of water thrown on that campfire before you're sure that campfire won't ignite something and chas v'sholom burn down half a forest. Okay, so coal is a more powerful expression of fire, even though less revealed. You don't see the fire as much. You just see a glowing red. Right? Okay. And when you're barbecuing, if there's, you wait ultimately until the flames die down before you start cooking on the coals, right? And that's when the coals are the hottest, and that's when they cook the food the best. Okay. But there's a level even deeper than that. So that's a level of fire that is more difficult to douse with water. But it's dousable. Ultimately, you can get those coals to be completely extinguished. There's a level of fire called sur. And this relates to the essence of the neshama. Now, what's unique about the essence? It's not revealed. It's concealed. It's hidden. You don't see the fire. The essence of something, you don't see its revealed reality. I don't know what it looks like. But as an example, even though I don't know what this means, I have no clue what I'm saying. But okay, if you were to be looking at the DNA, at the genetic code of someone, you're not seeing blue eyes. There are no blue eyes in the genetic code, even though the genetic code is the source of the blue eyes. But there's no blue eyes there. Now, I don't know exactly what it means to look at a genetic code, but I mean they do that, right? I mean they do that. Just really quite astounding. Okay, so. Sur is a level of fire that is completely concealed, and as a matter of fact, not only is it concealed, it itself is dark and cold. Now, if you put that flint in water for 15 years and took it out and hit it with a hammer, what would emerge from it? Spark. And that's the neshama. That's the motion for the neshama in the state of etzem. Etzem is a state that's not revealed, but it's the most powerful state of the essential reality, not the concealed reality. The most powerful level of concealed, of revealed neshama would be gechelis, cold. And that would relate to chaya shebenefesh, the level of nefesh, the superconscious level of nefesh, called chaya shebenefesh, which is that aspect of your nefesh right now, which is in Eilam Atzilus. As you're here, that level of your soul is in Eilam Atzilus. Then the three levels of your soul that are clothed in your body are called nefesh, ruach, neshama. Nefesh is responsible for action, ruach for emotions and speech, and neshama for intellect. Okay, I don't have any more copies, so I'm going to ask you to share, and I'll make more copies. Okay, I just gave one away. Okay, so I'm sorry. Okay, so those three different levels of neshama, the most powerful level of neshama is called the tsur, the level of tsur, the level of flint, and that's the level that's impossible to extinguish. Right? The mashal being this thing in Gashmias that is the source of the fire, but it itself is not fire. As a matter of fact, it itself in revealed reality looks like the opposite of fire. Right? That's why Atzmus is referred to as dark. The essence of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is referred to as dark. Why? What isn't it, so to speak? Light. It's not or. What's or? Or is revealed godliness. The godliness, the godly energy that, so to speak, emanates out from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself and is in a state of absolute revelation. You and I call that or. Okay. That's not the essence of God, that's revealed. That's like the sun, the ray of the sun that emerges from the sun. It's not the sun. It's that which is emerging from the sun. It's connected to the sun. It's on a certain level indistinguishable from the sun. But it's not the sun. Sunlight, sun ray. Okay, so too, when we talk about godly light, which would correspond to the Gecheles, we're talking about a level of reality that emerges from the ultimate source, the Ma'or, the luminary, and what's that called? That's the essence of a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the level of a HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's completely and totally, absolutely beyond our understanding. There's very little we can say about it, other than things that don't really make sense. Right? No beginning, right? When we talk about light, we say the light is Ein Sof. It's infinite, it has no end. Atzmus is beyond that. The essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is even beyond that. There's no beginning. Light has a beginning. I mean, it has a source. Atzmus has no source. It just is. Where'd it come from? Didn't. Why is it there? It just is. What does it do? Nothing. It's its function. Whatever. Absolute isness. What does that mean? Yesh Amiti. That's how we refer to it in Chassidus. Yesh Amiti, true being. What's the truth of that being? It in no way, shape, or form depends on any other state of being for its being. Every other state of being depends on something else as its source. The highest level of godly light, Or Ein Sof Shelifnei HaTzimtzum, the infinite godly light before the first tzimtzum, before anything, that first boom of light that happened, has a source. In what? In Ma'or, in Atzmus. Right? We've talked about this before, but this morning in davening, what are you going to say? Right after Baruch Hu, you're going to say Elokei Eilam B'Rachamecha Rabim. Right? Elokei Eilam, God of the. Now it's interesting to say. It sounds like God of the world, but ultimately, no. I'm sorry, I have no extra copies. But I
Rabbi, I got you as a copy.
What?
I got you as a copy.
No, copy.
Yeah.
Says it has yours copy.
Oh, I'm my copy. No, that doesn't work. At some point, your eyes are going to have to look at the mimer. Today, they won't be able to. Elokei Eilam, B'Rachamecha Rabim, God, in your great mercy, Rachem Aleinu, let me say 5 things. Rachem Aleinu, Adonu Zeinu, Tzur Mizgabeinu, Magin Yishenu, Mizgab Bedeinu, thank you, Shmuel. Right? Okay. So, the Rebbe Rashab explains this in Ayin Beis. Elokei Elam, that's the Eibush to himself. Atzmus. Beyond any description, beyond anything. Not even a luminary, not even in any way, shape, or form a source of light. That just happens to be something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided for whatever reason that he was going to do or be. Okay, I want there to be something called godly light. I want there to be something called infinite godly revelation. Why? Well, that's all it exists in the process of bringing about this thing called a world. And why does he want a world? He wants a world because he had a taiva for a dwelling place in the lower realms. Why did he have a taiva for a dwelling place in the lower realms? Well, that's why Chazal call it a taiva. That's why they call it a taiva, because a taiva is something you can't explain intellectually. A ratzon, the difference between the word ratzon, I want, and a desire, and taiva, another word for desire, is a taiva is something that can't be explained intellectually, rationally. I have a taiva for a cold beer. It's freezing outside. If you told me that you wanted a cup of warm tea, I would understand. But if you tell me you want a freezing cold beer, I said, well, what do you want? I don't know, I just have a taiva for a beer. I'll put it the other way around. It's a very hot day and he has a taiva for a cup of tea. Right? Okay. So that's why? I don't know. I've been thinking about a cup of tea all day. Fine. Okay, so for some strange reason that's beyond intellect, that even HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself can't explain, because it's coming from a place beyond God's Chachma also. So in that place, God had a desire, that's called the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he had a desire for a dir b'tachtonim, for a dwelling place in the lower realms. And here we are. Okay. But even so to speak, you can't talk before and after up there, but so to speak, before that, what is there? Just the Eibishter. Just there. What's he doing? It's there. Absolute being. Something we can't fathom. Didn't come from anywhere, has no purpose, doesn't do anything, is just there. He just is. Absolute isness. Again, called Yesh Amiti, true being with a capital B. Okay. That being, for whatever reason, then decided that he wanted a dir b'tachtonim, and the first thing that happened is that being says, okay, so I'm, so to speak, it's all so to speak up there in Atmos, I'm, so to speak, going to become a luminary. I'm going to become a source of light. Because there's going to be this stuff called light, which is just revealed infinite godly reality. I want there to be such stuff. Okay, that's the next thing you just say. That's the next thing you say in davening. Elokei Elam, that's Atzmus. That's just the Eibishter, neto. B'rachamecha Rabim, that's a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the essence of a HaKadosh Baruch Hu becoming a ma'or, a luminary. Not or, because or is limited. It's infinite. Can't be finite. It's limited reality. Atzmus is completely and totally beyond limitation, therefore it's beyond infinite. But it wants that there should be a reality called infinite reality, and that's called godly light. That's the next step. We're not going to go through all 5 steps. Right? Those are the next 5 steps, which correspond to the 5 steps of the downward emanation of light that you say every day when you say Baruch Shammai. They're exactly the same 5 as you say in after Baruch Hu, Rachem Aleinu, Adonai Zeinu, Tzur Mizgabeinu, Magin Yishenu, Mizgab Bedeinu. Those 5 steps correspond to Baruch Shamar V'Elam, that's 1 step. Baruch Hu, that's a 2nd step. Baruch Eimer V'Ezeh, that's a 3rd step. Baruch Gezum Kaim, that's a 4th step. Baruch Ha'Yisrael B'Reishis, that's the 5th step. And those 5 steps are mirrored again. We talk about them again after introducing 2 new steps. The first 2. Right? Why am I saying all this? So we'll understand something about Atzmus. What's Atzmus? The essence of God's being. Where's your neshama come from? There. Your neshama is indistinguishable from that. It's called mushrash ba'atzmus. It's sourced in Atzmus. There's a level of your neshama, mine too, right? Which is very exciting, right? Just I believe in yours more than I believe in mine, because it's easier to believe in yours than to believe in mine, because I know what goes on in my life. I don't know what goes on in yours. Neshama, there's a place in our neshama that is so powerfully connected to the Eibishter that for all intents and purposes it doesn't know whether it's the Eibishter or it's a neshama. And that's the level called Reisha de lo yoda v'lo yis yoda, the head that doesn't know and isn't known. So I once asked the Mashpia, what doesn't it know? What does that mean, it doesn't know? What doesn't it know? Right? So simple pshat is it's a level completely beyond intellect. Right? But what does it not know, so to speak? It doesn't know whether it's the Eibishter or the Neshama. Am I me or am I me, not a me like you and I experience me. But am I something called the neshama, or am I just the Eibishter? Whatever that experience is. But that's the essence of our soul, and that's the level of tzur. And that's the level that can't be extinguished in any way, shape, or form by the Mayim Rabim. All other levels of soul can be affected by the Mayim Rabim. Right? To the extent that they can be put in gullus. That's what it's called. Right? Meaning they find it very difficult to express themselves. Not that the neshama doesn't want to express itself, it doesn't want to express its innate love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it finds it extremely difficult. Why? Because the conscious reality of the Jew that this neshama is clothed in is completely and totally separate from anything Jewish. And so the neshama finds it very difficult to express itself because it has no way of doing that. Because the neshama down here can only express itself through my conscious reality. And my conscious reality is called my nefesh habahamis, my animal soul, and that animal soul is completely and totally disconnected from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because it was just never educated that there's such a thing called Torah and mitzvahs. It's not its fault; it just doesn't know about it. You know? Okay, you'll come back to it. Okay, the essence of the soul. The essence of a yid is a yid, regardless of what's going on down here. What's the mashal that's often brought? I mean, it's not a perfect mashal because, especially now, since we've developed the ability to fiddle around with DNA, right? So, and hopefully we'll be able to fiddle around with DNA enough to get rid of major diseases that are a function of certain genetic issues, right? The one they're working on, and they're actually getting somewhere, and it would be just absolutely astounding, is breast cancer, which is generally genetic, right? And if they could fix that, wow, that's about a third of the population of those women we know are in danger of that terrible thing. And wow, that would change reality. It would just be amazing. And they're working on it. I mean, that's cutting edge medicine today. Not the pills you buy in the pharmacy. That's the real guys are doing that. It's amazing what they're doing, and they're hopefully they can get some. Now it's also very dangerous because you could have some crazy person take it and turn it into okay, Beseder. That's most things. Bombs are good if they're yours. Right? So DNA. Your DNA says you have not you. Betty's DNA says that Betty has black hair. Betty doesn't like black hair, so Betty dyes her hair blonde. And Betty does that for 60 years. So Betty's revealed reality is blonde. Her husband doesn't know that she said she really has black hair. He doesn't even know that, right? Because she dyes her hair blonde. Right? And when he met her, she was a blonde. Right? That's why he went over to talk to her. Okay, fine. This is Doug. Doug met Betty. Okay, and Betty's been blonde now. Unfortunately, we have to say Betty's. No, we don't. So Betty has blonde hair, and she's had blonde hair. Betty's revealed reality is blonde hair, which contradicts completely her genetic reality, right? Okay, now, after 60 years, has her DNA been affected by the fact that she's been dyeing her hair blonde so even her hairdresser doesn't know? No. I know. It's a long time ago. Don't say anything to her. Only 2 people in the room got that reference. No one else did. Okay, say no. It was for you guys. Okay. How could you get that reference? It's an advertisement that was probably 50 years old, right? So the DNA doesn't change at all. What does that mean? That means a yid who is so completely drowning in the Mayim Rabim that we've been discussing in this Mimer, that there's no connection whatsoever to godliness in any way, shape, or form in that Jew's life. The essence of that Jew is still absolutely, completely, and totally, essentially connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu in a way that is impossible to disconnect. That's the Mayim Rabim Lo Yichulu L'Chabas Es Ava. That's the source of the Ava. Now that Ava resonates in the soul in that Jew, so even the soul that's clothed in the body of that Jew has this incredible love for Kadosh Baruch Hu and wants to express it. But unfortunately, it's trapped in a body that knows nothing about, a body that has a nefesh ba'amis, that has an animal soul, that has never been educated about anything Jewish, and so this poor nefesh elokis is just sitting there in a state of absolute, what's called in Chassidus, gullus. It can't express itself.
I remember my question. What is Mayim Rabim the physical world?
Mayim Rabim are what I suggest you do, I know it's a little bit of a pain, but I can put you on a group called, I have to add them. Anyway, there's Mayanot YouTube has this mimer is on YouTube every day. So if you want to catch up on only two classes that you missed if you just showed up. So go on Mayanot YouTube's channel and look for Mayim Rabim and you'll get 1 and 2 and you'll catch up on what was it. Yes, but Mayim Rabim, and this I can explain because we all have to make sure that we know this because of the next step in the Mayim. Mayim Rabim is in particular the worries that one might have about making a parnasa, but in general, one's involvement in thoughts of worldly matters. Meaning the fact that the world conceals godliness. That's Mayim Rabim. Our existential reality down here in Elam Hazeh is Mayim Rabim, and we're trying not to drown. Right? But our neshama is not affected negatively by that experience. Our neshama still loves the Eibishter and wants to express that love. How successful I am in getting that desire of the neshama to express itself in my conscious reality, which is called my nefesh ba'amis. So what do I have to do? I have to educate my nefesh ba'amis. So what do I do to my nefesh ba'amis? I get my nefesh ba'amis to want to get out of bed every day enough so that it'll get up for Chassidus and learn Chassidus every day and start to develop a sophisticated appreciation of God. Now, not only at 7:30 in the morning, you can also learn Chassidus at night at different times. Okay, say that, but I'm just selling this. Because that's what we do. Well, but that's what we do every day. What are we trying to do here? And that's why we learned what we learned. The first thing we learned at the beginning of the year, that amazing story of the Rebbe, that amazing mashal of the Rebbe Shah. Right? What are we trying to do? We're trying to get our nefesh bahamis to appreciate God. In other words, trying to get conscious me to appreciate God. Naturally, what does conscious me appreciate? Milk chocolate with nuts and raisins. Really good. Whatever lunch Mayanot is serving, because Amnon will tell me, Rabbi, it's good. Without a voida. It's not an avoida. It's good. I didn't have to do anything. Right? It just is. Okay, because Amnon is blessed with an incredibly positive nefesh bahamis, which is a blessing, incredible blessing. Right. Okay, but my nefesh bahamis, they likes it. Okay, right? And all of us have. Again, and it's so important. And we've said it 20 times, but you have to just keep saying it because it's so important. The nefesh bahamis is not a bad thing. Nefesh bahamis is simply that experience it's the source of that experience you and I have of being alive, conscious of myself. Now, I can use that consciousness to become an insufferable idiot who all I care about is myself and my own issues, and if I have to trample on you, I'll trample you, and I couldn't care less about anything else except my own physical desires, emotional desires, and all sorts of other stuff that has to do with that person who I call I, who I capitalize anywhere in every sentence that I say, because in the language I'm speaking, I is always capitalized, because I is so important. You is not capitalized, because you is not so important. But I am so important that I capitalize myself at every opportunity. It's pretty sick language, isn't it? Okay. I don't think German does it. Even does German do it? I think ich is written with a small I, isn't it? In the middle of a sentence? I think it's written with a small I. It's very embarrassing to be worse than the Germans, But anyway, what can you do? That's the language we're speaking. Yo in Spanish, je in French. They're not capitalized in the middle of a sentence. Only I. Okay, so my nefesh, that's a natural expression of the nefesh bahamis. Okay. What are we trying to do? Educate it. What gives us a fighting chance? Well, the Rebbe just told us that our natural, innate, true reality is that we're madly in love with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And I just have to tap into that. I don't have to do anything. I have to add anything. I don't have to make anything. It's there. I just have to tap into it. Just like we talked about this in the world itself is already there. What is the world? The world is a place of revealed godliness. You and I just don't see it. But when a Kadosh Baruch Hu looks at the world, what does he see, so to speak? Hiddenness, he sees himself. He sees an expression of himself. That's what the world is, in essence. Okay, so now what? So if God wanted a dir b'tachtonim, he wanted a dwelling place in the lower realms, well, he has a dwelling place in the lower realms. That's what the world is. Okay, it is, but you and I don't see that. And he wants you and I to appreciate that. Rabbi says that explicitly in a beautiful Mayim, Rosh Hashanah Tafshin Lamed Gimel. You can just look there. It's amazing. Amazing idea. Okay, so that's Tzur. That's the ultimate answer to the question as to why Shlomo Melech said, Mayim Rabim lo yuchel chavas asav, nars lo yishtafua, that Mayim Rabim will not douse the love, meaning all of the craziness of Elam Hazah will not extinguish the love, the natural love of the neshama for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the rivers, the stream of consciousness, that's what the Rabbi said, the stream of consciousness in worldly matters won't wash it away. My neshama still loves the Eibishter. Where I am, that might be a different issue. Hopefully not. Hopefully conscious me is a true expression of real me. And then I'm off to the races. But if not, okay. So I have to figure out how to align conscious me with real me. Ukemeshu b'chinas tzur, top of page Ayin Reish Hey. Shelamayla mihavai, which is beyond the vaya, beyond any state of light, revealed godliness. Shesham, that, who's Shadash Neshama? That's the source of the Neshama. That's the part of the Neshama that we call a chelik elokam mimal mamash, a piece of godliness from above mamash. Kemavur b'Likutei Torah, as is explained in Likutei Torah, the Alter Rebbe, b'Peirush HaKosav v'Ruach Toshuv El Elokim Asher Nesana, that the spirit should return to the source in godliness that gave it. In other words, that the Neshama wants to connect to its source in godliness. Shebechinas Elokim Asher Nesana, this level, this quality, the word bechina means quality, this quality of God, Asher Nesana, that is the source of the neshama that gave it. Hu bechinas tzur. That's the tzur, the flint. It's an incredible mushroom, the flint. You wouldn't know it has anything to do with fire until you hit it, and the spark comes. And again, you can put it in a glass of water for 15 years. Take it out, hit it, the spark will come. Put coals in water for 15 years. Either the water will disappear because of the heat of the coal, or the coal will no longer be hot. One of the two. One of them is going to win. Revealed fire and water, when they come in contact with each other, one of them always wins. They can't live in harmony. If the water hits the fire directly, so then generally the water wins. If there's a pot separating the fire from the water, then the fire wins. Sooner or later, there's not going to be any water here. Right? Because the fire will overcome the water, make it boil, steam, and ultimately there will be no more water. Right? Okay, but they can't live in harmony. There is a place where they do live in harmony. Metaphysical Mayim and metaphysical water live in harmony. And what's that called? Rashi on the first pasuk in Chumash. So I'm not asking something that we shouldn't know, because it's Rashi and Chumash, and that we should know. What's that place called where Eish and Mayim live in harmony? It's called Shamayim. That's what the word Shamayim means, according to Rashi and Chumash. Eish and Mayim, a place where Eish and Mayim exist in harmony. Shamayim. Rashi Chumash, this is not, I'm not quoting some, recently found manuscript of the Arizal. No, this is Rashi and Chumash. Right? We have to know those things. Not remembering every single one is obviously difficult. I'm being annoying. Okay, but I have to expect myself to. I'm going to learn it every year, every day, another aliyah, and hopefully I'm going to know Rashi and Chumash. Okay, let's go weiter. Vehine. Now the Rebbe continues, and this is the second half of the Mayim. The first inyan and avoid in the Mayim was the Rebbe told us how to make a living. Right? Then the Rebbe explains the inyan of Shlomo Melech's pasuk. Why is it that Shlomo Melech has to tell us that Mayim Rabim lo yuchlu l'chavos ha'ava? Why is that not obvious? Oh, because the shorish of the Mayim Rabim is tayu and the shorish of the neshama is tikkun. Then why doesn't it douse it? Because the true shorish of the neshama is etzem, is the essence of God, and that's where we just finished. Okay. V'hine loizu bilvad. Now we're going a step deeper. Loizu bilvad. Not only ayin resh at the top. Loizu bilvad she'ein b'yecholis amayim rabim anal. Not only is there not an ability yecholis of the Mayim Rabim lechabes chos v'sholem, to douse chos v'sholem esa'av v'sholem nefesh elokis, to douse the love of the nefesh elokis. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt myself for 1 second just to say, if someone has a very, very difficult time following the Hebrew, this mimer is translated into English in the lessons in my Marim book. You can find this mimer in English. Right? Okay? So if you absolutely need that, take care of yourself and find that. You can copy it, you can do whatever. Okay? Say that. Elo Yeseda Mizu. So not only does the Mayim not affect the neshama negatively, Elo Yeseda Mizu, furthermore, shall Yodam, by virtue of the neshama encountering the Mayim Rabim, by virtue of the neshama's descent into this world, Nase Yisrain Ba'ava, there is brought about an addition, an advantage, a greater love. Meaning, by virtue of descending into this world, the neshama experiences a greater connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu than it did, so to speak, before it descended into this world. Now, that should be something that I find hard to understand. Why? Based on what we've learned already today. What did we learn today? What's the source of the neshama? Atzmus. Okay. Is there anything higher than Atzmus? How do you get higher than Atzmus? If you're sourced in Atzmus, how do you achieve an elevation to somewhere else, so to speak? There isn't anywhere else. Right? I mean, in physicality, there's no mushal for this. I mean, okay, you're standing on top of the building. Well, okay, but there's an antenna. Okay, you're standing on top of the antenna. Okay, there's a sky. There is nothing beyond where you are. There is no source beyond that. There's no place, so to speak, higher than that. When we say higher, we usually mean closer to the Eibishter. Well, there's nothing closer than the Eibishter. Okay, so then, how can the neshama possibly experience an elevation by virtue of the fact that it comes into this world? Okay, we'll see. That's a question the Rebbe completely ignores in Ois Dalet. He's going to ignore the question. In Ois Hey, he's going to ask it and answer it. And that's where the atomic bomb is in this mind. Right? But here the Rebbe is just going to explain the mathematics of it. Why does the neshama experience an elevation by virtue of coming into this world and dealing with all the craziness that we deal with? Yeah.
Did we also speak yesterday that the neshama is also based in Tehu?
Seder, but it's also based in Atzmus. No, the neshama is not based in Tehu. The neshama is based in Tikkun. The Mayim Rabim comes from Tehu. The neshama comes from Tikkun. Right, that's called Elam Atzilas. That's why you say every day, Neshama Shunasadabi, Taharahi, it's pure, Elam Atzilas. Taparasa, Elam Abriya, the world of creation. Tayatzarta, the world of form. Elam Yitzira, Tanafach Tabi, you blew it into me down here in Elam Hazeh in a physical body. Okay. So that's true, but the Neshama is ultimately sourced in Atzmas. So how can there be an elevation? Now the Rebbe, I'm asking it here because it begs asking. But the Rebbe is going to completely ignore that, this whole paragraph. It's very interesting. Just ignores the problem and explains something. And then, in Ois Hey, the Rebbe is going to come back to that problem and say, wait, hold on a second. How does this work? But first, the Rebbe is going to explain the mathematics of it, the equation. Just going to explain the equation. Why is it that the neshama reaches a higher state? Now, when we say a higher state, that means is closer to the Eibishter, is more powerfully bound up with the Kadosh Baruch Hu by virtue of its Aveda down here in Elam Hazeh than it is in its source in Atzmas. Okay, let's see. Vohu, Shal yedei yeridus haneshama, by virtue of the descent of the soul, lamata, below, be'elam hazeh, in this physical world, v'hislavshusa, and the soul's being clothed, b'mayim rabim hanal, in these many waters, meaning its encounter with physical reality. Himagia, the soul reaches lamadrega nailis yeser, to a higher level, mimadregosa, than her level, koidim yiridasa lamata, before her descent below. Okay, I don't get it. Now, this is also just a lesson in how you learn. If you're so bothered by that question that you close the book and look for the answer, that's the wrong response, right? Ask yourself the question. I don't get this. Okay, but keep learning the mimer. Say, okay, I don't get this, but I guess I can go further in the mimer at some point. I hope the Rebbe is going to explain this to me. But there is a big question: how can it possibly reach a level higher than the place it came from, when the place it came from is the highest state in all of existence, in all of reality, and all of being? Does that make sense? Okay, I don't know, but I can still read the next line. Because there's all sorts of stuff I don't know, but I can still learn the mimer. V'zeu tachlis hakavana, and this is the ultimate purpose, shel Mayim Rabim hanal, of these Mayim Rabim. Wow. What's the whole purpose of Mayim Rabim? So therefore, the Rebbe just said quite an amazing thing. What's the whole purpose of the creation of a world where God is extremely hidden and difficult to access, in order to bring about an elevation of the neshama, that the neshama should come closer to a Kadosh Baruch Hu than it is in its connection to God, in the essence of God? Oh, okay. Now, man, this is what the Rebbe just said, right? Okay. V'lochein, therefore, safe, when all is said and done, ein b'yacholtam l'chabes ha'sa'ava, then certainly it's not in their ability to douse love. Why? Lefisha tachlis emek kavanosam shel hamayim rabim, because the ultimate, most sophisticated and deep reason or intention for the existence of Mayim Rabim, and again, when we say Mayim Rabim, we mean all of the concealment and craziness of this world. Gufa, that itself, who is the ultimate intention of all of that, Adoraba, au contraire, bichdei lifol, in order to bring about Yisar and Bava, a greater love of the neshama for Kadosh Baruch. So since that's the ultimate purpose of the Mayim Rabim, so then it can't be that the Mayim Rabim can truly affect the neshama negatively, because the whole purpose of the Mayim Rabim is to affect the neshama positively, and things that are created fulfill their purpose. Wow, that's a line also that is something very fundamental that you'll find throughout all of the Chassidus of all of our Rabim. Olam Hazeh, as crazy as it is, and it's a crazy place. And on a certain level, it's even crazier for us because we're aware of all of the craziness much more than any generation that ever was, because your average guy who lived in some little shtetl in Poland or some little village in Algeria, so what was the world for him? That shtetl in Poland and whatever went on there. So that was the world, and that's how crazy it might be. He knew there was he knew there was a king over there somewhere, to say that. But... Right? Famous story of a philosopher came to the Tzemach Tzedek and said, it was a Yid, said to the Tzemach Tzedek that he doesn't believe in God. He said, why not? Because I can't see him. He said, oh, you believe in the Tsar?
What was the Jew versus Mayim Rabim?
We're in the middle of something else right now. Right? So what he said, I don't believe in the ambush in God. So he said, why not? I don't see him. Do you believe in the Tsar? Do you believe there's a person called the Tsar? He says, yes. He says, well, have you ever seen him? Now, he's never seen him in a newspaper either, right? And he hasn't seen him he can't Google Tsar, right? He says, no. So then, why do you believe in him? Well, Other people have seen him. I mean, the people who've seen the Zohar, there are people who see the Zohar every day. So Tzemach Tzedek said to him, and I don't think he was telling a joke. Tzemach Tzedek said to him, I've seen God, you can believe me. Okay, that's what he said to him. Okay, what's the ultimate purpose of the Mayim Rabim? To bring about a greater level of love of the soul for Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? Say that. That's the ultimate purpose of the Mayim Rabim. That's the ultimate purpose for all the craziness in this world. And it's a crazy world. It's a wild place. Okay. That being said, the whole purpose of all of that wildness and all of that concealment is so that the neshama should come down into a body in this world and share that body with a nefesh habahamis, with a god, with an animal soul that might be interested in all sorts of bizarre, wild, and woolly things. And yet still, the neshama will do that which it's sent to this world to do, and therefore and thereby achieve a greater connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu than it had before it came here. And we're ignoring the fact that we don't understand that because it came from Atzmus and there's nothing more powerfully connected. Okay, fine, we're ignoring that. Because the Rebbe is ignoring it. So we're following his lead. So how does that work? Now the Rebbe explains it. Uba Voida, in a Voida, Ha'ilu Ishanasa b'neshama, the elevation that's brought about in the neshama, Al Yedei Yiridasa Lamata, by virtue of its descent below, Vislav Shusa b'Mayim Rabim, and it's being clothed in the Mayim Rabim. Again, all of the craziness of this world, Hanal. Who? What happens to the neshama as a result? Uba le'inyan tshuva. The neshama comes to a state of tshuva. And now we know something. Do we know exactly why things work this way? No. Do we know how things work? No. But do we know a certain formula, a certain equation? Yes. And what's that equation? Ukiyadua. Shenashamas kedem iridasa and laguf. The neshamas before, so we'll see that equation in a minute. But before yiridasa and laguf, before they descend into the body, heim bechinas tzadikim gemurim. The neshama is on the level of a complete tzaddik. V'hayisaran, and the advantage shenase behem, that's brought about in them, al yedei yiridasan beguf, by virtue of their descent into a body, hu shenasim bebechinas balei tshuva. Now the neshama becomes a bal tshuva. Asher, and now the statement, which is the statement of fact. I might not understand it, but I know it's true. Asher b'makom shebalei tshuva oimdim tzadikim gemurim eno meimdim. That in the place where balei tshuva stands, complete tzadikim don't stand. Read one more line just so that it makes even less sense. V'yasei mizu she'ein yechaylim la'amod boi. Not only does the tzaddik not stand in the place of the Baal Tshuva, he's not able to stand in the place of the Baal Tshuva. Those are the words that the Rambam adds to that Maimer Chazal. Chazal say that in a place where a Baal Tshuva stands, tzaddikim don't stand. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva adds that the tzaddikim aren't able to stand there. Not only do they not, but they're not able to go there. She'ein zu afilu b'yechaylish them. This isn't even within their potential, their ability. Okay. What did the Rebbe just say? I don't understand it, but I know what he said. The Rebbe just said as follows. Now, there's certain aspects of this that we understand. Then the neshama above is bechinas tzaddik, meaning it's in a state of absolute realized and revealed connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And when we're saying tzaddik, we're not talking about a tzaddik in this world, even though we'll talk about that later. We're talking about the quality of tzaddik. What's a tzaddik? So we will learn that from this world. A tzaddik is someone who has realized and revealed their essential connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So they live that connection consciously every moment of their life, and therefore they don't put up with all of the trials and tribulations that you and I have. They're completely and totally connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so that's a tzaddik down here. But we're also talking about the level of tzaddik and bal tshuva in the neshama itself. When the neshama is in a revealed state of connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu in its source above, so to speak, it's a tzaddik. When the neshama comes down into this world, what is it trying to become? about tshuva. What does tshuva literally mean? Well, that's okay. It can be an answer. It's also lashuv. Lashuv means to return. Where's the neshama returning? To its source. Oh, in other words, the Baal Tshuva is the one who feels distance from its source or is experiencing distance from its source, but wants to return to the source. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why. I could decide that I do and say all sorts of things, but I don't really know why. But the Chazal tell us that the Baal Tshuva is on a higher level than the tzaddik. Now, what does that mean in our context? That means the neshama, when it's down here in this world, because we're not talking about a Baal Tshuva who spent the first 20 years of his life eating bacon and doing whatever he was doing on Saturdays. That's not the Baal Tshuva we're talking about. We're talking about an existential state of every single Jew in Olam Hazeh who is in a state where his neshama has been taken far away from its source, and that neshama wants to return to its source. When it does a mitzvah, it does return to that source, and that action of doing a mitzvah turns the neshama in that moment into a Baal Tshuva, and that connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu is greater than the connection than the tzaddik has, meaning that the neshama has in its source above. Why? How? I don't know, but that's the equation. I don't understand the equation, but I know what the equation is. Here, the Rebbe's not explaining the equation. He's just saying that's the equation. Deal with it. Now, I know that's true. Why do I know that's true? Well, that's because I'll say. It's Gemara and Brachos. It's true that a Baal Tshuva is on a higher level than a tzaddik. Now, it might be that there's the unsophisticated so-called Baal Tshuva, the sociological Baal Tshuva, who grew up without Yiddishkeit, and now he's found the truth. And therefore, he reads this Gemara in Brachos, and he says, wow, amazing. I'm on a higher level than the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Because the Lubavitcher Rebbe is a tzaddik, and I'm a Baal Tshuva, and it says that tzaddikim aren't in the place of Balei Tshuva. So I should call up the Rebbe and tell him what to do. Give him some pointers on how to be close to God. No, that's not what it means. Is there a level in which the statement also applies to the person down here who was temporarily far from a Kadosh Baruch Hu and now has come close? Yes, there's no question. That in the eyes of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's something very, 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 very special. Like the father whose son is strayed and come back, and how happy that the incredible joy the father gets from the fact that that son has come back to the palace. That's an incredible joy, greater than the joy that the father experiences from the son who never left the palace, who's walking around the palace. He walks in, but he walks in every morning. So the father is, okay, hi, Boker Tei. He loves him. He's very happy to see him. But his reaction to that son is going to be very different than his reaction to the son who hasn't been here for 15 years and we don't know where he is, and all of a sudden he walks into the room. Obviously, the father will be much more emotionally affected by that moment. Okay, so there is that aspect of the Baal Tshuva relative to the tzaddik. Okay, we talked about it in Elul. Two amazing stories. A story with the Tzemach Tzedek, and then a story with our Rebbe. And I don't think the person who the story happened with our Rebbe, I don't think he knew the story with the Tzemach Tzedek, having known him, because he was a wonderful person, but he wasn't someone who knew everything going on. The Tzemach Tzedek was talking to some of his children, and he said, this is near the end of his life, and he said that he hadn't accomplished anything in his life, which is really an astounding thing for the Tzemach Tzedek to say. And his children said to him, what do you mean? You have hundreds of thousands. The Tzemach Tzedek had hundreds of thousands of chassidim. The golden age of Lubavitch was during the time of the Tzemach Tzedek, in Lubavitch. Hundreds of thousands of chassidim. Anyway, you've taught so much Chassidus and written so many books of Chassidus and so many books of halacha. The Tzemach Tzedek's major work is called the Tzemach Tzedek, which is a halachic book. Wasn't moved by that. Then one of his sons said to him, "You've made Balei Tshuva." And Tzemach said, "Oh, thank you." Whoa, it's amazing. You made Balei Tshuva. That comforted me. So now I don't think Shalom Ber Gansberg knew that story. Maybe he did, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Shalom Ber Gansberg was a very special Jew, passed away about 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago. He said, still, it was this year he passed away. He used to work in the Rebbe's house, the Rebbitzon's house, right? The Rebbitzon was in the house. The Rebbe showed up now and then in the Rebbitzon's house, and at a certain point moved in with the Rebbe and the Rebbitzon and lived there. And after the Rebbitzon passed away, he stayed there. He lived there. He lived in the house with the Rebbe, and so he was around a lot. So once he told the story, his children. Someone asked the Ashkenazis from Kfar Chabad to write down the stories of their father. I don't know exactly how the whole, but anyway, these stories are coming out now because he passed away, and someone's trying to collect some of the stories that he says, unbelievable stories. His brother is my brother's Mechutin. He's the father-in-law of our niece. And he also worked in the house and has a lot of stories, but the reason that the Gansbergs were allowed to work in the house is because they have tight lips. All right? They don't talk. To get a story out of Mendel is almost impossible, but every now and then you can squeeze one out. He'll tell you, okay, I'll tell you this, but don't tell anybody, right, Mendel? We're not going to tell a soul. We're not going to say this to anybody. So Shalom Ber was in the house with the Rebbe one day. It's a wild story. And the Rebbe was pacing in the room, in the house. And the Rebbe was talking to himself. And the Rebbe was saying how he hadn't accomplished anything in his life. And the Rebbe actually said it might be because, he said to himself, he was talking. He said, perhaps because I was born on Erev Shabbos, and they say someone who's born on Erev Shabbos doesn't complete their life's mission. So Shalom Ber heard this. Now, usually Shalom Ber wouldn't say anything, but he was very upset. And he said to the Rebbe, how can the Rebbe talk this way? And he only said one thing. He didn't go through the whole process. He said one thing. He went straight to the point. He said, how many Balei Tshuva has the Rebbe made? And the Rebbe smiled and said, thank you. He didn't say, boy, he went straight. Now, did he know the story? He didn't know. I don't know. But he went straight to the point. Balei Tshuva. So there is that. There's no question there's that. But when we talk about Balei Tshuva and Tzaddikim, we're also talking about different levels of the neshama. And that's what the Rebbe is talking about here. Okay? So for some reason, we don't know why, and again, the Rebbe is not going to explain it in Ois Dalet. He's going to explain it in Ois Hey. For some reason, the neshama experiences a greater connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu down here in Eilam Hazeh by virtue of doing mitzvahs here. Not aveiros, only mitzvahs. By virtue of doing mitzvahs here, than it does in its source, in the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Well, how does that work? Well, that's what it means when it says that that in a place where Balei Tshuva stands, tzaddikim can't stand. That's what it means. That's the deepest expression of that idea. We're talking about the neshama as a bechinas bal tshuva, returning to its source. It's been pushed away, it's been taken away from its source, and it wants to connect. Okay, we'll go weiter on Sunday. Have an amazing Shabbos.
Thank you very much.
I'll make more copies. If it's a good idea perhaps to, I will try to, there's something called Chassidus Brings Mashiach. There's a WhatsApp group, and this recording goes on that WhatsApp once it's been processed by YouTube, which for whatever reason takes close to a day, which I just don't understand.
I'll have to send Kriya Shema, you have a couple minutes.
Right. Sech Kriya Shema is